So there are three methods to access, okay, any service, means or to access the pod. One is cluster IP. So this service is nothing but a cluster IP, okay, which is accessible only within the cluster. Then the other option would be we'll always have a cluster IP service. So everywhere wherever we seek service, it is cluster IP. Okay, but for node port, we'll be opening a port on each worker node. So that is 30,000 in this case. So now the it is accessible on each VM's 30,000 port. The other method which I told was load balancer, but most of the times load balancers are provided in the cloud. Okay, but we have a something called metallb, which we can use for testing purpose only for Kubernetes. Metal LB service. Metal LB means anything which we create from the scratch, like on VM or on some kind of physical servers. That's why it is called as metal lb. So we'll be seeing one such example of metal lb here, and ingress we saw just now, and we'll also have an exercise where we'll have combination of ingress and load balancer. Okay, so let's see that. So the exercise number 9 is for metal lb. So kubectl get all and get ingress. I have deleted ingress as well. Okay, I don't have anything now. Kubectl no microcata status. So here if you see there is a service called metal lb. We'll enable it. Microcatus enable metal lb. Okay, so if you see in the example, I've also given a IP address range which can be used for metal lb. Okay, so as I forgot, it is giving me, it is asking me for the range to provide. So I'm providing this. Okay, for you the range may be different. I have the IP address range 192.168 1 dot something. Okay, so that's why I'm using an IP address which the DHCP, my DHCP server, the local router won't provide to anyone else. That is 1.131 to 1.135. So these IPs will be used as a load balancer. Okay, and the IP address range should be in 1 dot only, because our VM or laptop everything is in 1 dot range, 192.168 1 dot range. So what
Is
I've
this
done
also
is,
a internal load balancer?
yeah, it is only an internal load balancer. If you have one more interface, okay, and if you can provide one few more IP addresses there, then we can use some other range, but it will become more complicated. So we are using the same IP address range because we are using only for learning purpose. So for installing metal lba also, it is using some yml file as the backend. Okay, so those yml files are getting applied. Okay, and after some time metal lb will be ready. So I think this error we can ignore. Okay, so microcatus is enabled. Let's check the microcatus status. So along with ingress we also have metal lb. Just check kubectl get namespace. Okay, so I have ingress installed. So different namespace is there for ingress. I've installed metal lb. So for metal lb also there is a different get all namespace, and inside that also we can see there are few services running which are required for running metal lb. Okay, now we have installed metal lb as well on the Kubernetes cluster. So let's create some deployments. I'll create a directory called mkdir deployment because I already have some other YML files. This is a clean directory which doesn't have anything. So I'm creating httpd deployment.yml and service both in the same file. Deployment.yml. And why I'm using this greater than sign instead of vi editor, when we use this create a file with cat greater than sign, it maintains the indentation. Okay, if there is a space more than which it should not have, it may give error. Okay, with cat the indentation remains intact. That's why I'm using that. Now I'll apply it. So we are creating the one deployment. Again httpd same, but here we are creating three replicas. It doesn't matter one or three replicas. Okay, so what we have done is, I didn't explain, we created the httpd deployment three replicas. Okay, using httpd image, name of the container will be httpd, but here we are creating a service called type load balancer. Okay, so as we have defined type as load balancer, let's check the output. kubectl get all. Okay, so if you see, it has given an external IP address, that is 192.168.1.31. When we are using Azure, AWS or Google, it will properly assign a public IP here. Okay, the only difference is here it will be public IP, and there we do not need to enable something called metallb. It will be done automatically. It will check, get the load balancer IP address automatically. And now if you do curl to this IP address, we'll get the output. And one more thing what we can do is sudo vim/etc host, just map it 192.168. 192.1, 192.168.1.131. Okay, web11.example.com, giving a different name. Web11 is the shortcut. So now if I just try to do curl web11.example.com, it will also give the same result. So in production environment also will have a external IP address. Okay, this will be some public IP address. We'll have to go to our DNS provider and make some entry like this. A record in the DNS will have to add that map this IP address, the public IP address, to some domain. Okay, so this needs to be done in the domains control panel or DNS control panel. Okay, so this is one of the method to use load balancer. So remember, even though we are creating a load balancer, it is also accessible inside the cluster on a cluster IP. Okay, but for external, let's see if it works. 1.131. So if you see, it works. So now it is accessible from outside world on a load balancer. Till now we were exposing node port, but exposing the node port is not the recommended way. So it is always recommended to use load balancer.